Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome, one and all, to another afternoon game drive here in Kenya and in the Greater Mara Reserve. We are sitting here looking at a wonderful cheetah. You're watching Safari Live, and this is happening at this very moment in the Greater Mara Reserve. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera we've got Manu. Hey Manu. So folks, we've come out nice and early, and look what we've managed to find. Now please don't forget to join us on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. We'd love to hear your questions and your comments, and for you to get involved with us as we move around the Masai Mara looking for exquisite animals such as this one. Now, we didn't go to that area when we left this afternoon. We've just gone on a road of discovery and been exploring, and we've found that D'Artagnan has moved away from the group, and it seems like he's been quite hungry actually. I wonder if he didn't feed with the rest of the group earlier this morning. It seemed like he had quite a fat stomach initially, but it seems like that has gone down now. So he's moved off on his own. Maybe he didn't get much of the spoils this morning, and he's been eyeing up these zebra that are just around on the plains, but there's one or two that have picked him up, so he's maybe just playing the patience game, gone back to sleep, pretending like he's not watching. But you can see there all around the outskirts there are some animals around, so we're hoping that at some stage D'Artagnan is going to sit up and take some more interest. Now, Alex, you're asking a very good question, and it's around that telemetry that we call the radio collar and how we use that to track cheetah and a range of other animals as well. You put them on all sorts, from leopard to cheetah to lion to elephant, rhino, and some of them use different places to put these radio collars on. But for now, this is still the best technology available, with the long life battery that needs to be put in place, and then that leather bangle or bracelet or necklace that they put on it. And this has been tried and tested over a very long period of time, and these are still the best units. Remember, they need to be able to hold up with the animal, and they generally put them on for around a year. That's how long the battery power would last. And so after a year, they can either replace the battery. Sometimes they've gathered the data that they need, and they can then also just cut it off. So that they would have to dart it and just put it to sleep, or at least immobilize it so that it couldn't hurt anybody or itself, and then they would remove it. So sometimes once they've obtained the data that they were looking for, mostly around their movements, where they've been tracked around the reserve, and then they would take it off. And it's normally strategic on the individual. Which animal they choose is normally a part of a group or a matriarch or a very important individual, whether it be for the population or the herd or the group, etc. So folks, what a wonderful sight this is, and he keeps looking in that direction. I wonder if there's not some of the other members of his coalition somewhere over there. But we're going to sit here, and I hope that you stay with us so that we see what happens with D'Artagnan. But for now, we are going to send you on over to Taylor, who would love to say hello.
And I thought we would start with, well, in my opinion, the greatest animal that has ever set foot on Africa, or in Africa, and in India also, because there's elephants there too. We're quite lucky, aren't we? And we get to see these beautiful giants a single day out here in the Masai Mara, where they're few and far between, and also down in sunny South Africa. My name is Telemetry, and on camera with me today is Archie, and this is the Sunset Safari, and I hope that you're excited. Seatbelts on, please, because it's going to be a bumpy ride, as we've had lots of rain. And some of you may have noticed us slipping and sliding around all morning. Let's move up a little bit with these elephants. Now, this is a live show, of course. This is happening right now. It is currently 35 minutes past 3 Eastern African time. So, just in case you were wondering if it was live or not, it is. And you can talk to myself and Ralph. And later, you'll be able to chat to Noel as well. And you can do so by hashtagging Safari Live on Twitter, or you can also talk to us via the YouTube chat. Woo! Happy New Year! I believe you're all chanting on YouTube and on Twitter. Well done. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to all of you too. I hope that it's going to be a good one. Our day has been alright. It hasn't been too shabby. We spent most of the day watching a troop of baboons around camp, kind of like how we're watching these elephants go about their day at the moment, and they were absolutely hysterical. But hopefully we'll find some baboons, or I'll tell you some stories when we don't have any animals around. But it's not a big herd of elephants. I haven't really seen any big groups of ellies on the side, and we've been talking about it for the last few days. There's actually a question in the Mara, and it's now easy to see why. Obviously it was all guesswork and I was telling you how dry it is, but finally we're back across the side of the reserve and you can see the grass is yellow. Yes, around the drainage lines where the elephants are going to be hanging around, there's most certainly a lot of greenery there, so they're going to have to change their diet slightly from predominantly being grazers to feeding on these little perennial shrubs, and then all the trees and leaves and all sorts of other things that are growing along the drainage. Remember those elephants we saw this morning crossing the open? They were just going for the small shrubs. The grass wasn't even long enough for them to wrap their trunks around and pull tufts out. So yeah, let's see what's going to happen between this young bull and this female. Can you see those two there in the middle? And that cow is expressing her unhappiness with that young bull. See how she's got her ears out? And I think he knows. Maybe he's not supposed to be around here. Perhaps he's getting to that age where he's going to be sent. Ah, Benoli, there we go. You were wondering if I think that elephants in the Mara have a better temperament than those down in Djuma. I actually think it's the other way around. I think the elephants in Djuma have a much more relaxed way around the vehicles in comparison to the elephants here. And the reason why I say that is actions in South Africa where almost interact. Sorry everybody, there's lots of cars trying to come around us and I find it particularly difficult. Sorry. When they park right next to you and want to talk to you, but you're live. It's there we go, bloopers videos. Right, so what was I saying? So no, but I haven't had any close encounters with elephants here. I mean, even the young ones just sort of turn a blind eye and completely ignore you. Whereas in Djuma, you often find the little ones testing their strength to see if they're big and strong and can intimidate us by mock charging, and it is rather sweet, if you ask me. And I think I don't actually know why they'd be more relaxed. It's interesting because you can off-road here, you know, the elephants can come around and into the camps like they do in South Africa. So it's just amazing that the ones down in SA are a lot more relaxed. Perhaps it's got something to do with poaching and these animals able to move into different countries and, you know, maybe they get stirred around by different people. And that's why they aren't as relaxed. But they're fairly relaxed. They just tend to ignore us here, which makes my heart very sad because I love it when I catch the attention of an elephant. It is a lot of fun. But we'll move on from these ellies now. I'm searching for a big pride of lions that live along this lugger, the ones we were trying to find this morning. Ralph, however, is with the Fast Five, and I wonder why D'Artagnan has moved away.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, and I'm also wondering the exact same thing. I'm wondering why he's on his own, but chatting to Manu, he has said to me that it does seem that D'Artagnan is a little bit of a loner. He's often on his own on the side and with feet. he's having to prove himself, or not sure, but I would have to wait and see the dynamics between the brothers. But very interesting. Now, there has been a little bit of viewers wondering exactly where Taylor and I have been moving in the last couple of days. So I just wanted to do a small depiction on the map, because I also love using the map, and for me it's the first go-to point. And so just had to fold this map because the wind is a little bit strong and it's a bit unmanageable if I open it up completely. But our camp is somewhere up there on the Mara, the Olololo escarpment, just off the Mara triangle. And so what we have done is we've come down this road, that little valley. It's a small little road, hitting the main road, and we've followed it along to the area along the river. Continued along there all the way to Serena Lodge. We got some fuel and things at the lodge there, and then we continued along down this road all the way along the lower Mara River to Purangat Gate. Then we crossed the bridge there, re-entered into the Mara National Reserve, and we moved up past Lookout Hill because we heard there was some cheetah in the area, which we were unable to find. And then we cut across on all sorts of crazy trails and two tracks, and landed up somewhere in this area. Managed to get to this road in the rain, in the dark, with no windscreen wipers, as Manu as my manual windscreen wiper with the squeegee. Thanks, Manu. Yeah, we made it safely all the way to Talek, and we are staying there in Talek. And what we have done today is come along this main road, and we are now somewhere in. We found D'Artagnan. We found them a little bit to our north this morning, and so he has moved off on his own a little bit to the south, and for the time being, I think, I'm not quite sure, but he keeps looking over his shoulder, so I'm just wondering if his coalition buddies are in the area. But he's also been taking the odd interest in the zebra, and we can never know, and all we have to do is sit here and wait. He has looked like he wanted to hunt, and then he goes back to doing this. Every now and then a little bit of stretching and really taking interest in the zebra, but yeah, we go between the two. Now, Chat Noir, you're wondering how you tell cheetah apart. Well, that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing in the next little while as I come across all these individual cheetahs. So I'm going to be going through all those identification smallities and the little subtleties that we need to look at so that we can distinguish between individuals. But with this one, it's obviously very easy. Firstly, we came across 5 cheetah, and we already know that there's a group of 5 in a coalition called the Musketeers, and one of them is collared, and this is him, called D'Artagnan. So the easiest, I suppose, we have found first, and at least we have a lovely starting point. But then from there, you're going to be looking at any kind of little facial distinguishing features, anything that is different. So if he's got a little scar on his nose, or we also look at the ears, which will have any little tears in them or little notches that we could check. But then we can also get closer into all the little spots around his face and where they are exactly. So we're going to get into that when we get a few more of the cheetah around. But this one, obviously, it's a total giveaway with that collar on. So, Chat Noir, I hope that you're going to stay tuned and you're going to help me identify the others. Now, Philip, you've put in a very good comment there that the coalition is, they've got a very good agreement when it comes to the ladies of the species. And you're wondering, maybe D'Artagnan hasn't had any chance, so maybe he's gone off on his own to find a little bit of his own romance. Well, I think it's the first of the first, and so we'll make it a day of firsts, and maybe this will be a first day for D'Artagnan to find his lady love. Maybe not, but who knows? Maybe he keeps looking over his shoulder and has come off on his own because he's smelt a lady cheetah in the area. That's a very good option. And we'll have to just wait and see and follow him and see where he goes and what he does. So we wait and watch. And every now and then he jumps up. You see, he goes from being almost flat out asleep to being quite aware. So it's quite important that we sit here, and it's been quite comical because whenever he sits up over there, he's got that branch in his way, and all he would have to do would have to just move a little bit to the side and he'd have it out the way, but instead he just keeps putting his head from one side of the branch to the other and looking very irritated with the branch at the same time. But, well, I suppose he's not really that concerned with the leaf in his eye when he's got either a lady love in the bushes or some food out on the plain. And that we're going to have to wait and see. Quite heavy breathing, but his stomach isn't huge, so I don't think he's fed too much. Now, Ferry B, you're wondering if a cheetah would be able to take down a zebra on his own. Well, he wouldn't be able to take down a big zebra, I would think. I've never seen a cheetah on its own being able to do such a thing, but it's pretty certain that he'd be able to take a youngster down. Now, there are a few foals around those zebra, and it would just take for him to make a little bit of confusion within the harem or within this group of zebra, and he might be able to just isolate it a little bit. And then he could be able to take down a foal on his own, but you never know. There might be the other members of the coalition lying up in trap, because this is the second most gregarious or sociable cat after the lion, and with a coalition of 5 of them, there is potential for them to be laying in ambush as one drives the animals towards them. So anything's possible when there's 5 individuals. It's not just one that we need to worry about. There's the other 4, and maybe this is part of laying a trap, but my suspicions are still that the others have fed, and maybe D'Artagnan has not fed enough, and he's come out looking for a little bit more. And, well, he's taking a rest just before he does that, or he's maybe just lost the cause a little bit in the meantime, so maybe he had enough, just not to make him terribly hungry. Now, Francis, you're saying or asking, is D'Artagnan the only one collared? Yes. As far as I know, the little information that I have obtained, yes, that is true. So that's why we know that it's him, and he's in that coalition of 5. So very common to have found him where we have, in the area anyway, and so it's not in question. We definitely know who it is. And we also saw that scratch on his nose, so even if we didn't have the collar, we'd be able to see from that. But the question still remains, what is going to be in store for us with D'Artagnan? What are you going to get up to, buddy? He seems to be stuck between what's going on to our west and what's going on our east. There he's looking now over to the west, but then he does turn back to the east, which I'm pretty sure is the prey looming on the horizon, but something is worrying him behind us. He keeps looking over there, and it is slightly into the breeze, so maybe that's just what he's doing. He's just trying to sniff out whatever is to the west of us. Not too much that we've seen. Most of the animals were up on the plains there, so that's why my suspicions being one of his mates. Chat Noir, you're wondering if the females get together to form their own pride. Not particularly, no. So they are the second most sociable cats to the lions, but that doesn't make them extremely sociable. They're not extremely sociable, but you do have these coalitions of males, and it's usually unrelated males that will form coalitions like this, but of similar age, that have left mom and walked on their own, and then found a couple of other male buddies to walk around with and explore the surroundings and hopefully survive, and then start hunting, and they'll start playing with each other, learning from each other, and then eventually make up a bit of a team. But with the females, you can have the youngsters staying with mom for a couple of years, and so you can see them together for quite a while, but then generally would move off on their own. And females can have massive home ranges. I've heard up to 1,000 kilometers squared. So, and that would be in miles. We could probably put it at about 700 miles squared. So it's a very big home range that the females would traverse, and the males obviously a little bit less, because they've got territorial disputes with other males. So inevitably, we are going to have to stay here and see what D'Artagnan gets up to this afternoon, because we've worked a little bit too hard to find him, just to leave him and drive off. And even if we drive around the next corner and just have a peek and see if the other coalition mates are there and return, and D'Artagnan isn't here, it would be a travesty. So we're going to stay here, and in the meantime, let's send you on over to Taylor and see how she's getting on.
Well, we're actually not too far away from where you are, Ralph. You're down in that direction. Probably here, close to where you are. I have to kind of it's
Well, folks, sorry about that. It seems like Taylor may be driving in an area where there's a little bit of low signal, and it's quite difficult, obviously, for the tech team and everybody trying to sort out the signal and everything behind the scenes, but sometimes there's just no coverage. So we can't help that, but what we can help is getting us back to watching what D'Artagnan is up to. He seems to be looking out back over the plains, and so we wonder if he's going to eventually single something out. You see there, the looseness of that collar is reasonable. It's not. It's also not good to have it too loose, because then it can wobble around. So this is over years of research and them trying all sorts of different tactics and options and collars, and I've seen the evolution of it over the last 30 years, and this is already almost a masterpiece, because that is fiberglass covering the little transmitter with the battery, and as you can see, yes, it's there, but it's not ultimately in the way, and the cheetah can continue and carry on with its normal daily functions. Now, Taylor, you're wondering what the collar does. The collar that is on there, it has a little battery and a little transmitter, radio transmitter. So what it does is it sends out a pulse. It's probably every half second or second, so it goes beep, beep, and it's got a signal. So what the researchers do then is they've got a receiver which will receive that pulse, and then they've got a sort of an aerial shaped like an H, and the aerial will pick up that pulse, and that will then be able to is. So there are obviously a lot of improvements around the world in terms of this kind of tracking and so on. So I do see in the next couple of years this kind of collar becoming smaller and smaller as the technology increases. But as far as I know, the biggest problem is around that battery power, because if you're trying to transmit something 24/7, it won't last for longer than a week. So you need to have this simple kind of signal sending that will continue over a very long period of time, because the problem is that we don't want to be anesthetizing or immobilizing a cheetah like this on a regular basis, because it will affect their heart rate, well, not just their heart rate but their heart incredibly. So eventually we'd probably end up killing this animal because of the amount of times we were injecting it with all sorts of chemicals. So they try and do it as little as possible and try and be as less intrusive as possible as well. And so that this is, over the years, the solution that has been proffered, and it seems to be working very well. The researchers are able to find the animals, and the animals are not particularly perturbed by the collars. Yes, I believe they can be smaller, but for the time being, they work very well. I don't know if you've seen any of on the elephants. Those hang more like a very big necklace, and it seems it's a lot looser on an elephant, and it suits them fine in that particular instance. With rhino, they'll put them as anklets just around their feet, and so that's the best position for them. Lions also go around the neck, and so there's all sorts of different options. I know that you can even do it with ground hornbills. They have been doing that as well, but that's obviously also an anklet. So very interesting, all this research stuff. And they're obviously collecting data. So they would have to do it over many years, and then you can start to see how the graph portrays itself, because you can't have a little bit of data and try to get any results from that, or try to see any trends. That's not really how research works. It's over many years and lots of random data, but the random data is specified, so it's each and every one has a different specific requirement. So for instance, where have they gone? So the movements of the cheetah could be one of the data inputs. Another thing could be what they kill. So specific species of animals that they kill, and where they drink, etc. So there's a lot of different data sets that would be within a greater research project. So, and we could go on about that all day, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to obviously get accurate information that when there are problems with cheetah, or there needs to be new projects implemented, they have a lot of data that they can use for input into motivations, for sponsorships, or whatever it might be. If we need to let the government know that the cheetah are actually becoming more endangered, then that data is used for that. So, all sorts to talk about with cheetah. Please keep sending your questions and your comments. We welcome them, and we love to get you involved. So, while we sit here, and we're going to continue staying here for a little while longer, let's send you on over to Taylor.
Right, Ralph, I hope that those cheetah get up and start doing something exciting, and hopefully their bellies have decreased in size. We are bumbling along luggers this afternoon in hope to find lions. That's what we're actually after, but also looking for some leopards. Malika and her son have been spotted, but unfortunately they're in an area where we don't have the greatest signal, so we're not going to go down in there, especially with, and then just leave Ralph. That would be a very nice thing to do. So we'll try again tomorrow. But this is basically the spot where we had all that excitement, where we had lots of cheetah, lots of lions, serval. It was an incredible night, mating rodents. This is on that lugger, but it doesn't seem to be happening right now, but that might change. a little bit later. This is a very, very nice lug. Obviously you've seen the grass is short. We were talking about earlier how the elephants are going to, if they're in the triangle, if they're in the Masai Mara National Reserve, they're going to come and feed along this lugger, or all of these different luggers, and then that will also start attracting other things like bushbuck and other creatures that browse on thickets and like to eat nice green grass. And then the predators will come too, but you've got to be so careful when you check through here. You've got to check every little shrub. Like I thought I saw something, but I don't know, in this gardenia at the base of it. But it might just be some leaves that have all piled together, yeah. And there's a bit of light on them. So I saw a bit of yellow and all sorts of other colours, and I thought, woo, maybe something lying under there. Little leopard cubs. Wasn't little leopard cubs though. Very sad that it wasn't. Now, Philip, you're wondering if both the Masai Mara National Reserve and the Triangle have the same 6:30 curfew. No, it's actually the Masai Mara only closes at 7 o'clock compared to the Triangle, which is quite nice. They're both only open at 6:30 in the morning though, so we can stay out a little bit later here without an askari, which is quite nice. So that's why we can go a little bit further away. Although I feel like even though the distances are massive between, you can still get to places fairly quickly. It's not too difficult. I haven't been down this way for quite some time. All the way down. Normally there's a spot that I turn around at because the next road is quite far away, but we'll just give it a bash anyway. This is also, yes, this is the area yesterday where we saw all the cars piled up along the lugger. There were two, one for the cheetah and then one for Pride Lions apparently. So I'm hoping if we just keep bumbling along, we'll eventually find something, or we might have to go somewhere else. But yeah, we went and checked where Imani's daughters like to hang around. We went to check Malika and her two sons' favourite spots, but they weren't around. And then we did again leopard lugger searches, but didn't come home with anything, unfortunately. We were left empty-handed, which was not great, but it's just how the bush goes sometimes, isn't it? I suppose we had such a great leopard sighting with Noel this morning. What more can you ask for? I mean, that sounded absolutely gorgeous to have that little cub out and on the log. Well, just showing itself to all of you. Very nice. Right, we're going to try and go through some of these luggers. We'll jump onto the other side. Now, whoop, definitely not going through that one. Ralph, however, is safe and sound, all four wheels on the ground, and he might laugh at me because there's a possibility I could get stuck.
Yep, I hope Taylor gets stuck. I hope she gets stuck. No, but that's just a joke. Shame. I don't want her to get stuck. But this cheetah is on the move here. And why I say this cheetah is because, thank you so much, folks. There's been all sorts of people writing in, and we've got some information that this possibly isn't D'Artagnan. And Manu and I were now looking very intently at those scratches on the nose, and it seems that they're on the wrong side, and they're not as clear as the ones this morning. And one of the viewers has just told us that there were 3 male cheetahs collared. One of them was killed by the 5 in the coalition, including D'Artagnan, and then there was another one called Hodari, and this is potentially him. So we're hoping that we've found a new cheetah that has not been shown on Safari Live. Maybe he has, but this is wonderful news if this is a totally new cheetah. Well, they're all new for me, so it doesn't really make me that extra excited. I'm excited anyway. We've got a wonderful scene, and hopefully we can follow this cheetah here. Right, he does look interested in hunting, so I think we do need to keep following. He's making out as if he is keen, but also just heading a little bit into the lager. Now, the reason also we did assume, which was very bad of us, that it was D'Artagnan is that because it's not far from where the musketeers were this morning. So if it is Hodari and a different male, he's either looking for trouble being so close to them, or maybe he's looking to join. Or maybe neither. Maybe he's just moving through, looking to get some food. Now I'm going to start up and we're going to go a bit closer because I don't want to lose him. So thanks once again, folks, for sending through your information. That is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful that we get all that new info. Now if he goes in there, might be a little bit difficult for us to follow, but we'll just put ourselves here and see where he goes first. And the only other thing we can do is then try to follow him as he walks through the thicket here. It's a croton thicket, and so quite difficult if he had to move off in there to be able to see him, but it's not too thick till it gets through to the other side. So it's almost like we need to, there was another vehicle here, it's almost like one of us needs to go the other side and check if he comes out and I remain here, something like that. We can still see him, just those spots through the croton leaves, and look at that, he's gone. Just with a couple of steps, hey? Invisible. Wow, that's wonderful. But not as nice for us because we do want to stay with him. So what we're going to do is we're quickly going to pop onto the other side and just hope that he pops out quite soon. If he doesn't, we know exactly where he went in, so we can always come back. But that is incredible, hey? How quickly did he disappear? And we're going to have to quickly run to the other side. It seems a couple of other vehicles have spotted us. A little bit earlier we were all on our own because we had found him all on our own and we were in a dip, but then he moved a little bit, and obviously the passing vehicles eventually spotted our aerials sticking up down towards the lager, and now they've come across to join us. So our secret's out. But we can work together now that he's on the move, and we can all try and find him. A few more eyes looking in through the bush. It's also good. Just hope that we don't have 20 vehicles in the end. But everybody also wants to enjoy the wildlife here, so, you know, and it's also the people that are paying for it that helps with the conservation and the reason why we still have this area protected. So we can't complain too much when there's other people around. That's the way I always look at it. If people are paying good money to come and look at protected wildlife, well, that's the reason they're still protected, isn't it? So we sometimes need to put up with people's disagreements or the way others are, because they might think that we're being silly, eh? Now, cheeky kid, you're wondering a very good question, why the coalition male killed that other male, and that's normally down to competition, because they don't want other male cheetahs around, because firstly, they're competition for food, and secondly, they're competition for their girls. So either way, it was probably a little bit of a dominance spat. But obviously when you've got 5 in a coalition, there's only going to be one winner in that. So he probably got himself into the wrong place at the wrong time, and the coalition had no option but to obviously extinguish competition and a threat. So that's how wildlife works. Sometimes very unfortunate, but and ruthless, but yeah, that's the way it works. It's very simple. There's not much emotion, and only the fittest and the strongest will survive. And so that's a natural selection. It's very fascinating that they can be so cruel to their own kind, but in being cruel, they're being kind, because they're only then allowing the strongest genes to survive and to be bred. And a coalition of 5 males, very clever in what they've done. So with that intelligence of and possibly luck of joining in that one group, they are assuring that for the next while their genes are going to be the ones passed through here, and it's probably a very good thing. Now, we do need to be keeping our eyes open, and I'm sure Manu is helping me with his eagle eyes standing up there in the back. It's always a good help if you've got somebody that's very keen and also got sharp eyes to help you, and that is Manu is both of those, so that is great for us. We wonder now, that's the trouble, you know, he could walk along this lager or he could come through it. Now it's all a case of trying to see where exactly he's now landed up. Alright folks, I've just got news that there is confirmation that this cheetah is Hodari. So I'm very excited about that, because that's a new cheetah, or a cheetah that hasn't been seen very much at all, and we just hope that we can find him again. So we're just going to sweep along a little bit here and have a look. There is another vehicle also going along slowly behind us, so we've got two vehicles now on the search, and we just hope that we can pick up on him again. Okay, Manu just saying that he was a little bit further back, and the lager, as you can see in front here, gets very deep as well, so I wouldn't assume that he's walking along that. Okay folks, it's a little bit of hide and seek for the time being, but at least you can see the area that we're in and where we managed to find him. Now we've just got to go along slowly. I won't be surprised if he's lying in the shade. But let's drive a little bit closer to the lager and have a peek, see if he's not lying inside the lager here close to us somewhere. All eyes on the thickets, folks. We want to be looking between the branches, between the leaves, looking for that little flash of white of the underbelly or on the tail, or those very distinct spots, but it can be very difficult through this kind of vegetation. We have to keep trying though. He's in here. Just move along. It's like being a detective, eh? To keep trying. Now we wonder, do we go back? Do we wait here? I wonder if he's lying now in that thicket. Well, it's worth going back and seeing if he's possibly turned around and come out. If he has, we should be able to see him. As I say, there's a couple of vehicles now helping with this hide and seek. Alright folks, so we're going to slowly loop back around this little game that we're playing with Hodari, who I hope is Hodari, is going to keep going, and it's going to continue until the result of which I hope is that we find him. But in the meantime, while we head around there, let's head you on off to Taylor and see how she's doing.
We're still looking for any of the big cats. That's what we're still doing, and I haven't had much luck, I'm afraid. It's not looking too good for us out here today. It's not very nice weather though, so I wonder if everyone's just hiding from the wind slightly and trying to not go through areas where I'm going to get stuck. I'm a bit lost now, not as in lost as I don't know where to go. I know where I am, but I'm just confused as to what I'm going to do, because I really had my heart set on finding some of these lions that live along the slugger, but it's turning out to be a lot harder than I thought. Sometimes nature just hands you things on a silver plate. What have we got here? I can see big gazelle and small gazelle. Have we got Tommies and Grants? It looks like it. We'll have a look at them now. Do one last scan before we stop. on that drainage line. Make sure there's no heads popping up just yet. So here we go. For those of you who have never seen Grant's gazelle or Thompson's gazelle together, you can see why when you first come across them you'd be worried about getting the two species confused. Obviously when I arrived in the Mara, I had absolutely no idea in terms of the sizes of these two species, but I knew that their coloration looked quite similar. Now that is not mom and baby, even though they kind of look like it, don't you think? There's two different species there. Isn't that amazing? It's incredible. Like correlation, I don't know what correlation is. Coloration is almost spot on. Just that dark stripe is slightly less prevalent on the Grants. Where's the big boy? Can't see any massive. There's one, but he's moving away. Whew, it's very windy here. It's actually not very pleasant at all. But they're all just grazing, moving around. I wonder what's biting them. All the animals, and I said this morning, obviously after all the rain that we've had, we can expect lots of insects around. I wonder what's got them at the moment, because the baboons were scratching like crazy, more so than normal, and all the antelope and gazelle species have also been, well, seem to be quite itchy at the moment, or at least things biting them. Their tails are constantly on the go. And you would think with such a windy day like today, it would be slightly difficult for the flies to be able to hang about. I mean, I watch the birds, and some of the bigger eagles are really struggling in this wind. I wonder if it's something on them that's crawling around that's bothering them. But whatever it is, it's all over. Now you can see the camera bumping a bit. That's just how windy it is. The car is shaking at the moment. It's gusting quite. Yeah, it's gusting quite a bit now. Now, Matt, you're wondering if these gazelles are related to springbok. They look exactly the same, or just about. I have no idea of the different families that these three, well, those three gazelle species are in, unfortunately. I can have a look. I don't think that they're subspecies of one another. Let me quickly see if I have them in my book. That is an impala. We are not looking for an impala. We're looking for some of the others. It's such a big mammals book. That's a read back. We're also not looking for that. It might take me a while, so Matt, what I'll do is I'll have a look, and then when you come back to me at some point, here we go. Hang on, I'm finding it. I suppose they're all slightly related to one another. I mean, they're all gazelle. I just can't remember what the Latin name for a springbuck is, and now I can't find it. Oh, there it is. So maybe not. But sorry, I've the paging and through. I need to actually have a highlighter with me, and so I can highlight certain things. So what do we got here? I'm trying to have a look what's on the screen now. It's a bit glary. We've got some Thompsons there, and there's one of the Grants. I mean, they're both gazelle species, so I'm not sure if they're subspecies of one another. I mean, they look completely different. I mean, for instance, if you look at the blue wildebeest and the the western white-bearded gnu, they're subspecies of one another, so there's not much difference between the two. They kind of look the same. It's just the white-bearded gnu, the western white-bearded gnu, is the smaller species of the wildebeest, but not by much. I mean, there's not a dramatic size difference like what you're seeing here between the Thompson's gazelle and the Grant's gazelle. So I think I'm going to have to do a little bit of research there, Matt, and then I'll get back to you tomorrow, or it might be the day after if my mammals book doesn't have anything in it, because we don't really have that is fantastic, Faith, but that means absolutely nothing to me, unfortunately, because I don't speak Latin. So I'll need to go and break it up a bit. But the only problem is that we don't have any internet at the moment while we're across the side. It's not great, and in our tents, well, we don't have Wi-Fi where we are now, and at Silas, the Wi-Fi doesn't reach the tent. So I might have to save that. When we stop, I'll write it in my notebook and get back to you all on that one, just to quickly see how between the springbuck, the Thompson's gazelle, and the Grant's gazelle all fit in with one another. Okay, well, we're getting to another hot spot on this lugger where I've seen lots of lions before. Perhaps they'll be laying about. Rolf has done a good job at keeping up with this new cheetah who I've never heard of. Let's see where he's going to take it.
Thanks, Taylor. And yes, folks, we've managed to relocate him. He went into the thickets and he sent us on the wild goose chase because we all went round the other side, and he just nonchalantly strolled back out and sat himself on the top of a termite mound. So he's posing for us wonderfully now. But it seems that it's been confirmed that this cheetah is indeed Hodari, which is fantastic news. And now it seems he was born in 2012. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but he was born to the female Imani, which means faith. And it is also apparent that okay, sorry, so I've got it the wrong way round. Armani, peace, being the mother, and Imani, faith, being the father. So a very nice coupled name as the parents of this cheetah. So anyway, I might have it a little bit muddled up, but I'm going to do some wonderful research after this, and we'll get to see a little bit more of him, I hope, and that will be wonderful. A very good looking cheetah. He looks in fantastic condition, and he is looking like he could do a little bit of hunting. Looks like he could do with a little bit of food, but his coat is in wonderful condition and he looks very healthy. So nice to see as the breeze comes through, keeping things a little bit cool for us. Now, Cluck, you're wondering why it's more difficult to find predators in the Mara. I'm assuming that you're saying more difficult in the Mara than in Djuma, for instance. I'm not quite sure which place you're comparing it to. Here in the Mara, there's a lot more lions than there are in the Djuma part of the Greater Kruger National Park. So that is obviously the big draw card of the entire Masai Mara. The very large number of lions in the area, and also cheetah. So that is the focus, really. It's not known for its leopards, and so that's one of the reasons why this is a match made in heaven, with us having footage coming from the Mara Reserve and the Mara Triangle, and then we cut over to Djuma, where the most prolific predator there is that of the leopard, or the ones that you see the most, at least. And it's wonderful that we can mix these two locations so simply and seamlessly on one show, and I think that's the uniqueness of what we're doing. And wonderful to see cheetah here, and I've been blown away by how many lions we've seen as well. Now, Safari Wildman, you're wondering if he's in the same territory as the other 5. It seems that he is. I haven't seen the depiction of the imaginary line of where the territories would exactly be, but he's so close to where we saw them this morning that I would think that he's definitely inside their territory, and that's maybe why he has seemed to be a little bit nervous. Maybe he does know that he's in their space, and so he does need to be careful, because if they find him, I fear that he would be in big trouble. But he's quite relaxed for now. Maybe he's just on the boundary. Who knows? Maybe this is his little territory off in the corner. Maybe they even allow him to be in this little area. Who knows? You know, we have set rules, or we try to get set rules for how cheetah and animals should behave or do behave, but they always show us that it's not always the way we think, and it normally changes our mind about them. But we do say in general with most of these situations, and it does make it easier for us to understand their behavior. And that's one of the reasons why we have the collars on them as well, because now we could see how often he would be in this area. And I'm sure the researchers have got all the data to show us how and where this individual has been moving. But it would be down to the person that's got the receiver to be able to pick up where this cheetah has been moving to get the information from. Now, Mia, you're asking a very good question. You're saying, would the other four musketeers in the coalition not confuse this one because they both have collars? So would they confuse Hodari with D'Artagnan? Well, it would always be possible. But I think, Mia, that the cheetah aren't too worried about those neck bracelets or collars, and I think that they would very easily identify if it was D'Artagnan or not, and probably the quickest via smell. So if they would smell his urine or his scat, and they would immediately know that there's an intruder, and they would know that it's not D'Artagnan. And even if D'Artagnan had to move away and this one had to come into the area, I know that they would distinguish between the two immediately. So, no, it's probably down the quickest to smell, identifying each other, and they would also know exactly how D'Artagnan moves. So even from a distance, I'm sure that they would pick up that this is a different animal. Now, Monique, thank you very much for your comment. Hodari does indeed need to be careful because those musketeers are extremely fierce, and they outnumber you 5-1, so you do need to be on your toes. That's maybe what he's doing, keeping his head up, just making sure that there's no danger around, even though cheetah do need to constantly look over their shoulder, not only for other cheetah, but for all the other predators, because the lions and leopard and hyena don't take nicely to cheetah being around, and they'll very quickly chase them and attack them and even kill them if they can. So cheetah can very regularly be seen quite jittery because of that. It's quite nice to see with the musketeers, because there's so many of them. It's lovely to see cheetah with an attitude, because the attitude of most cheetah is quite skittish, and so it's nice to see those males not worrying about too much. Now, Veronica, you're wondering why they gave cheetah a French name, D'Artagnan. Well, Veronica, I'm not quite sure exactly who gave them the name. It was most likely these people, these very clever people that are doing the research on them. And I think it was just because he was quite distinguishable from the rest. And if you know anything about the musketeers, well, their leader was D'Artagnan. I can't remember too much about the real story of the musketeers, but I do know that much, in that D'Artagnan was the leader of the musketeers, and that's why they named him as such. Most people, if you say it in an English accent, would just say D'Artagnan, which has also been shown in the English version of the movie, but I don't think it's such a bad name. I think it's quite fitting in terms of their coalition. So some of these names that are given to the animals are quite strange, but it's just so that we can identify them. It's not to make them personal or anything like that. In my mind, I look at it a little bit more from a researcher's perspective, but everybody's different, and lots of people like to get personal with the cats especially, which is absolutely great. It's lovely that people get involved. So we really enjoy that everybody's got a love for these predators, and everybody's got their own opinion about them, and it's wonderful to share that. It seems like he's now having a little bit of a snooze, and so nice to be able to spend time with an animal, even though it's sleeping. But as you see there, he's never quite fully asleep. He's just snoozing, just dozing, and I tell you, you can go from snoozing to running in a split second. So you always just have to keep an eye on them and see what they get up to. Still eyeing out the plains. Now, Naomi, you're asking a fantastic question, and that is why can't they retract their nails? Well, Naomi, that's one of their adaptations that helps them to be so fast. One of them is the nails aren't able to retract, so that actually acts like running spikes, but naturally. So instead of them putting shoes on, they've just got their nails that don't go back. And so as they're running, that gives them extra grip. And so they can make those sharp turns and corners. And when a warthog or a bushbuck is trying to sidestep them, they are able to turn just as fast, if not quicker, because of their running spikes. And added to their long tail with the ball on the end, which helps to set the balance as they turn from left to right, and it helps them keep their balance when they're at high speed. And then they've also got a very long spine, which assists greatly in their acceleration and obtaining of speed. So those three very clear adaptations help them to be the fastest land mammal. And it's wonderful adaptations. But it also has led to them losing bulk and losing size or not having that. So they're very, very fast. They can hunt their prey down with ease, but they are very quickly and easily chased off that kill by any of the other predators. So what they have gained in speed, they've then lost in bulk and in power, so they can't really easily defend their food, and that's why they very quickly drag it off into the shade, try and get it into cover so that nobody else can see, and then at least try and eat as much as they can as quickly as possible, because if the other predators see, they're out of a meal. So we hope that he's still going to get up, and we hope and wait and hope that he's going to spot a target out on the plains. Welcome back, everybody, and sorry about that little break in transmission. Yes, the gremlins caught up with us again once more, but the tech guys, they've made it happen again. So we're back live here with Safari Live in Kenya in the Mara Triangle. Next to that you have the Greater Mara Reserve, and that's exactly where we're sitting now with, it seems, a brand new cheetah that we haven't seen, and if we have, I'm mistaken, but it's the first time I've ever seen this one, and his name seems to be Hodari. So wonderful find as he now starts his little afternoon snooze. Beautiful, lying here on the side of a little termite mound, and a few clouds coming through now. I hope it's not heading for the showers that we had yesterday afternoon, and that's just me being selfish for the ride home and being able to bring you lovely pictures like this. If it can just hold off to after we finish the drive, that will be great, and then it can really pour. I'm not worried after that. But what we do have is a lovely cheetah in the golden light as the sun pokes through behind the clouds. Beautiful eyes of the cheetah as well when he has them open. So while we sit here and continue watching this dozing cheetah, Hodari, the first timer for some of us, and what a wonderful sight it is indeed. Let's send you on over to Taylor, who I think has got a range of different things to show you.
We do. We're still sitting with all the tow people. We've got a buffalo that is in no hurry to go anywhere, as you can see. Have you ever seen a buffalo walk any slower? Oh my goodness, he heard me. That was perfect timing. Thank you, buffalo. Yes, we're watching you and I'm talking about you and saying that you are slow. Looks like he's getting a little bit thin though. He's starting to see the hip bone, a few ribs. Perhaps it's an older boy. Doesn't seem to be very muscled up. Not at all. And you can see why they fall out of the big breeding herds too. It's because when they do start to get older, they just really can't keep up anymore. And even though this fella is on a go slow, buffalo can actually travel fairly large distances in such a short period of time as well when they get on the move. And it's a bit risky for him to be out here on his own. So I think maybe that's why he's also passing through. And don't you think it's quite interesting how, regardless of the weather, I mean, come rain, come shine, come gale force winds, there always seem to be animals out in the open. Now, in this particular area, there isn't much vegetation around. I mean, there's a couple of shepherd's trees here and then, the odd balanites and gardenia. But other than that, there's few and far between. Oh, there's the tent. I think those tent. I want to live in one of those. That's where I would like to live. Imagine just sitting there reading a book, staring out at all the animals on the plains. That would most likely be an anti-poaching team's stay-over tent or a ranger of sorts, a little lookout post, because there are teams that do move around, and then they'll need some places to, of course, spend the night. So that's very cool. But what I was going to say is how, and up here, whereas on a very windy day, you'll almost see nothing out in the open. Everybody will be tucked away in those guarri thickets that there's so many of in the Sabi Sand. There are only a few up here. And out here, in the Mara, everybody stays out in the open. And I think that's for the best bet, though. Because at least if it's windy, you know, it's a bit annoying. You know, you can't hear very well, but at least you can use your eyesight. And if you're standing in a thicket, using your eyesight becomes a little bit difficult, but it does help improve your hearing slightly. If you are in a thicket, of course, it becomes sheltered. But then you can't really see so well. So it's not a bad idea being out here, especially all sorts of things. Now, Debbie, you're wondering where was the rest of that buffalo's herd? He doesn't have one anymore. He's kind of retired now. He's doing his own thing. He might meet up with a couple of other buffalo bulls that are in a similar predicament, and they'll live together. Perhaps that's where he's going. There's maybe a meeting at a wallow somewhere. Although I haven't seen too many animals wallowing around today. It's been warm, but it hasn't been exceptionally hot. So that's what typically happens once they get too old, and it's the boys, they fall out and they form these bachelor groups. And a buffalo on his own like that is a very dangerous one, especially because he doesn't look like he's in the best shape either. That might just be because he hasn't been eating as well. There isn't a lot of green grass here. You might have to move to another spot. Look at this zebra foal. Now, every time you see something like this, you think, oh my goodness, it's dead. It's not dead. It's just fast asleep. I'm so sorry, little one. I didn't mean to wake you. And I used to always have a heart attack going to fetch the horses in the afternoon. And like I was telling you this morning, I had one horse. His name was Remo, Assegai San Remo. He was a big heifer lump. And he would lay foals because I don't know why I had the biggest warm bladder. And then he'd wake up and like just very relaxed. And the little ones of course get tired. We see that with elephants, we've seen it with the topi. They all need to have a rest, a lot more rests than the adults have as they start developing their muscles, and eventually they'll get used to it and then they'll be up and looking around, and they can afford to rest because they've got mom standing next to them keeping an eye out. Whereas if you're an adult, you're kind of on your own. Unless you are living in a big herd that's quite social, then you know your fellow animals might have your back. But out here they can afford to rest a bit. There's so many different species and they've all got such incredible eyesight, hearing and sense of smell. Hopefully between one of them they'll be able to alert each other if there's a predator around. This is another spot where I've come across and found many carcasses of animals scattered around. So there must be lions around here somewhere. I just don't know where this afternoon. I seem to have all the lion luck on the other side of the reserve, and on this side it's more of the cheetah, but I am really hoping to see some leopards. And I think when we go down towards the Sand River Valley tomorrow, how exciting is that? I can hear people shouting, Black Rock Pride! Black Rock Pride, Taylor! We will go and try and find the Black Rock Pride, I promise. And we just can't from when we're at Talek, it's too far away. But if we're staying at Silas, it's a different story, much closer. It's around Kruger area, so we'll go and have a scratch. I've never seen the Black Rock Pride before, so that's going to be my plan. Tomorrow morning we're going to leave Olasheki, we're going to take all our stuff with us and spend probably most of the day out, and then just head back to Silas in the evening. Maybe take a packed lunch, packed breakfast, all of this wonderful things. Now, apparently, Jared's buddy, you are quite excited that I'm going to see the Black Rock Pride. Don't get too excited because we must remember that there are animals and they can do what they want and they can move into different areas. Maybe they're not going to be in their usual spot. So we will give it a bash. We shall try and see what we can find. I'm kind of at a loss as to where to go now. Might go back down a little bit further to the north again and check one of those luggers. Right. Rolf is doing a great job at following the cheetah around this afternoon, and I look forward to perhaps meeting this new fella. Let's go back across to him and see what he's up to now.
Well, he hasn't got up to too much. He's still sitting where we had him when you went off to Taylor. But we still have to sit and keep waiting and see. We've just changed our position a little bit, trying to get a better angle for you and making the most out of that golden light that's coming onto him. It's a beautiful position we have now, almost at eye level. So we're in a very Very good location. And it's just a shame that for now he's snoozing off. But we can't have it all, I suppose. Taylor struggling to find lions. I can't complain that we're sitting watching a cheetah, that's for sure. And just behind him there's a lovely view of a euphorbia, and it's a candelabra euphorbia, and it makes for a wonderful scene as we look at the cheetah. The only shame, I think, for pictures and for the beauty of this as we're looking at it, is obviously just that collar on his neck. It's not making for the best photos, but nonetheless very important for the information gathered on cheetah. They are sort of dwindling in a lot of areas, especially on where they come into contact with farmers, because they do very often start to take their cattle and their sheep out. Now, Ganoli, you're wondering if Hodari has any coalition. It seems that he doesn't. It seems like he's on his own, which is not totally unusual for hunt and to establish a territory, but maybe he's a loner and maybe he does very good on his own, so it's not impossible that, but obviously he does need to be careful of the 5 musketeers, because that's a very big and very strong coalition. Now look at that picture. That makes for a lovely silhouette next to the cheetah. And these trees are actually quite toxic. That latex that you get from those leaves, now those are all leaves modified, very similar to cactus, but we don't have cactus, any natural cactus, especially in southern Africa. I think there might be 1 or 2 in the northern parts of Africa, but otherwise it's euphorbia, so it's cactus-like. But those are modified leaves, and they're very green, so they do photosynthesize, but there's a very toxic latex on the inside, and if you break one of those leaves, it literally pours out like milk, and it's quite toxic, and the local people have been known to use them for fishing, because if you throw enough of those branches into a small pond where there's some fish around, it will clog their gills and they won't be able to breathe in the water or extract the oxygen from the water. And so within a day or 2 they'll all be floating to the surface and you'll be able to pick them out one by one. So a very easy way to fish, but it's obviously one of those survival things. Another thing is that you can use it if you pull a tooth out or you've got a toothache. Because of its toxic nature, it does make the area go numb, so you can put a little drop of that latex on the point and it will literally make it go numb. So these that you get in the deserts of Namibia, those are terribly toxic, and so if people use them for firewood or anything like that, there has been known of many deaths of the euphorbia in Namibia. But this one, it would literally just give you a very bad stomach, or it would, if you got it in your eyes, it would burn a lot, and so you can actually use it for quite a few things because it's not terribly toxic like the ones up in the north of Namibia. But those ones are so toxic that the Bushmen did and still do use them for the tips of their arrow. So they wipe some of that latex on the arrow, and then they would use just a small little bow and arrow just so that it pricks the animal that they're targeting, and then they can follow the animal until the toxin takes its course. And then they would cut its head off and stop the toxin from going into its blood, and then they would carry the meat home. So, a wonderful scene that is, and we learn about what is the backdrop of the cheetah as well. It's always something to talk about, always something to learn. You see that red oat grass just flying in front. You can see now how much wind there is. It's quite breezy at the moment. And it's coming through. It's keeping things rather cool, which is nice. There's a couple of different species of grass. There are a few love grasses, or the Eragrostis species, along with Tomida triandra, the red oat grass. And here on this side of the Mara Triangle, it seems that, the Mara Reserve, it seems that there are a few more of the little trees that are allowed to grow a little bit more than in the Mara Triangle, but they do only seem to be very small brush like that. And this is also close to drainage line, so it's either the elephants or the stampeding migration with a lot of mouths that don't allow any of the plants or trees to take hold, and that's why it seems to maintain as a grassland. So it's all environmental dependent, and whatever is happening with the animals and the soil and the grasses and the plants all intermingle and make for these wonderful ecosystems and interrelationships. And the apex predator that the cheetah is one of forms a very important part of that. I saw a little video recently on some wolves that were returned to the Yellowstone National Park in America. And they said over the few years that these wolves had been returned, it made a wonderful transformation of the areas within Yellowstone National Park, because there was instantly population of deer and I think it's stag and moose that was taken out by the wolves, and so their population, which hadn't been under control up until that point with the wolves being absent, it took a dive. But because of that, there was a whole knock-on effect for all sorts of other animals and creatures, and it made that the beavers started to return, making their dams in the river, and there was many different kinds of plants that returned because they weren't getting hammered by the deer and the stag, and then there was different birds and insects, and a massive transformation just because the apex predator had returned. And that just shows how important the whole system is and how they're all interlinked, and you take one out of the system, there will be a knock-on effect, and exactly where will only be known once it is done, and it can knock on many different levels. So just very interesting to think that about the apex predator and the important role that they play, not only in keeping the prey population in check, but that then knocks on to all the other balances that are maintained by the apex predator being there. Anyway, like those weighty, heavy discussions, it's always wonderful. Now, Ian, you're wondering if there's any evolutionary line to I'm not sure what it was about the euphorbia. I just want to get this question nice and clear from the guys that are sending it to me, because it seems a very important one. Any evolutionary explanation for the dots and the lines on the tree? Well, I believe that it is the way that these leaves have modified. It's quite intricate, because they're now fulfilling a succulent function, and you very often find succulents and euphorbia in very dry, arid areas. So that is a storage area for moisture, and at the same time, the tree also has to then still protect itself, and it also has to. So, with trees and plants, a lot of And that chance would probably be more so in terms of their stomatal cells that is making it available for them to respire. Because don't forget that trees and grasses, they both respire, transpire, and photosynthesize with all of that intermingling with each other. So they're taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen at some times, and sometimes taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. But they also need to release the moisture and the heat that with all these chemical reactions going on. So I think maybe those dots could be what they are using in assisting with the respiration process of the plant, but I'm not absolutely certain. I'm assuming, because of my knowledge of photosynthesis, and this being a very special plant in terms of that there has to be a way for all of these chemical reactions and the resultant water and heat allowance to be let out. So I think it's all down to those tiny little variations of these plants. You do need to still continue with those processes. So very different looking leaves, those. So, folks, as we sit here, and I think we're going to just be staying here with this very new cheetah that we've managed to find, I want to send you on down to my good friend back down in South Africa, 1,600 miles, and let's say a very big welcome back to James.
Hello, hello, Happy New Year, good day, good afternoon, etc. Hello, Viam. Yes, Viam is on camera in 2 pairs of dark glasses today. My name is James Henry. For those of you who don't know, I'm recently returned from a holiday to the Eastern Cape. Marvellous it was. But here we are, now in the violent heat of the eastern lowveld of South Africa. Driving up the Marti drainage line here to see if we cannot find Thandi and her little baby, who does not have a name just yet, and I shall attempt to break Twitter by pretending to give it a name if we find it today later on. If you'd like to talk to us, please do so using the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. Be marvelous to hear from you. Otherwise, you can use the chat stream on YouTube and ask any questions that you might have, perhaps about this dung beetle that mistook me for a piece of dung there, which was not very nice of it at all. Okay, so our plan is to head up this way now. It's got a lot greener since I was last here, bit thicker bush. I'm told, however, that we are still short of rain from the average. And thank you all for your very kind welcomes back to me. If we do lose signal, I apologize. Now, many of you would have been on drive this morning with Noelle, and I think it was up here that she had the little leopard cub. She's gone on some well-deserved leave now, and so we are just going to see if we can find what's going on in this drainage system. There is a Franklin. Lose your sense of humour on holiday. Oh, are you on the Panasonic, are you? We're not allowed to use brands, obviously. I don't like. Today. Barbara, of course, is not the name of Shadow's first, but I do believe that Shadow's been spending a lot of time here which is very exciting. With the absence of Karula, two of them both Thandi and Shadow, seem to be taking over her whole domain and actually using it a lot more than they have done before. So I think that's very exciting stuff. Now, on a hot day like this, I think the temperature is probably about 780 degrees Fahrenheit or so. We'd expect to find them either lying in the shade, perhaps inside the little den, or in the shade, lying up in the boughs of a shady tree. Now, Tandy does like to do that from time to time. I don't know about this little thing yet. I think it's probably almost a tree climbing stage by now. In fact, almost certainly. Now, VM, of course, hasn't been in here either, so he doesn't know where we're looking. Do you, VM? No, you don't. Now, this looks like we're getting close. There are a lot of vehicle tracks in here. Many of you, of course, are probably looking at this screen saying, turn right, go left, because you know exactly where her little posse is. We're still on the tracks. I'm just driving very, very slowly. I don't want to give either of them a fright. I want them to have a very nice start to the new year. 2018. All of the platitudes that go with the new year. Gosh, last year was so short. Where does the time go? Etc., etc. Yeah, I'm not having much luck around here at the moment. Alright, while we look around here, I think let's head across to Tristan and I'll try and figure out precisely what's going on with Thandi and her as yet to be named cub.
Good afternoon, everybody, and Happy New Year to all of you from myself, who's back from leave. And I hope James has some luck with Tandy and the cub, as he's not yet seen that little one. So I'm really hoping that he is lucky enough to find it. Now, we're sitting with some impalas that are just having a real tough time with the heat, so they've gone into the shade. And I can tell you by sitting in the sun that it is excessively warm out here. So I think we'll probably move off into the shade fairly shortly too. But as James mentioned, my name is Tristan. On camera today, I've got Senzo, and it is excellent to be back in the bush. It feels beautiful out here after a bit of rain that they seem to have had over the last few days, so it's really nice to be back and be out and about. Now, you can get hold of us on #Safari Live or on YouTube chat if you'd like to ask any questions, as I'm sure all the others have already mentioned. Now, I was saying that those impalas were in the shade and they were taking it easy, and that's because it really is very warm. And so with the humidity from the rain that was had last night, I believe there was a big storm last night in this area, most of these animals are going to be trying just to stay out of that heat for now. I actually see that there's a big warthog in the background as well behind all of the impalas. Maybe if you just go a little to the right there, Sens. There we go, somewhere in the back there. There he is. There's our warthog. It looks like a he. I'm not 100% sure. Is it a boy? It looks certainly boyish. And they all here because there's actually a little mud wallow not far away. It's the little mud wallows, and so I'm sure everybody has come for a bit of a drink, as well as the shade that is associated with these sort of muddy areas. So nice to see them around, and the reason why we're checking these water holes is precisely for that reason, is because it's very hot. Many animals are going to come down to not only drink, but also to be able to try and just find a little bit of shelter where there is often thickets around watery areas. And what that means is that predators are sometimes attracted to those areas as well. So it's always good just to look around where you see lots of prey animals. You never know, maybe you get lucky, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to bump into some leopard this afternoon. While James is off looking for Tandy, I thought I'll just go exploring around. And I think to start off with, I'm going to try and see if I can find some of my favorite big grey animals in the form of ellies. So that's what I think I want to start with. And the new year, it would be great to have a leopard on the first drive back. Right, now we've spoken about leopards and we've sort of chatted about it, and I'm very excited to tell you that James Henry seems to have been successful. So let's jump across to him quickly so he can have a little look.
Well, we have been successful. We've got Thandi here. She's just under the tree. Now, I know her to be a fairly, probably say, obstreperous leopardess. She's not always that relaxed, so I'm just going to give her a bit of space. I don't want to get too close to her. VM, can you even see her properly? Not really.
Well, we can ahead.
You got a head there. Okay. I can't see the monitor properly. So I think we'll just sit here for a little while. I have not seen the little one. She's now starting to relax. When we got up here, her ears went flat back. So we're just going to give her a little bit of time. Now the den site, as far as I understand it, if we move off to the left-hand side there, there's a hole underneath that tree, and I believe that that's where the fourth den is. And I'm looking in there with my binoculars, and I can't see any little spots at all. Now Tandy's calming down. She seems to be going to sleep. So that's good. We might try and move a little bit further around, and I'm just looking in all the trees to see if the little one hasn't taken to a life of arborealness, arboreality. Neither of them. She's looking towards us, and then towards the den. Philip, I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about. You say compared to... I'm afraid I have absolutely no idea how to answer that question on account of the fact that I've got no idea what a helicopter parent is. Anybody else know? But she's I think she's a little bit more defensive around vehicles. Ah, right, I see. Okay. So a helicopter parent is somebody who hovers over their baby or youngster and doesn't allow them to go and do anything. No, I don't think that Thandi's like that at all. I think Thandi is obstreperous generally. I don't think she's, I've had lots of incidences where I've come up and parked next to her and, gone about a sighting as I would normally with just about any other leopard, and I've had the situation where she growls or puts her ears back or snarls until I back off to a distance that I would have normally considered, well outside of her zone of discomfort. So I think that just becomes magnified when she's got little ones, and I don't think she's a helicopter parent, no. Utteringly out here, possibly the better. Wasn't raised nearly as that could come first. It's not cool down here, is it, Veer? No. Now, David, interesting question. I was talking about this with Tristan on the way in today. You say, will the little cub have any danger or be in any danger from Tingana? The question really is, does Tingana know that this cub is that incurring is a danger to this cub at all. Definitely danger to this little thing. Dear spot, because William and I will most certainly be a puddle of butter come the end of this. The river, and she is sitting with her all afternoon.
Hi, Uncle James. Welcome back from your holiday. I hope you had a good Christmas and a happy New Year. Perhaps James can sing you all a belated Christmas carol, or maybe even a song about 2018. That's going to be my request this afternoon. Now, these zebra are looking a little bit jumpy, don't you think? And that's because there are some cheetah laying in the bushes. We're back with the I don't even know how many collared cheetahs there are out here. So it's quite interesting. Obviously, it's very difficult to see who we've got laying in the bushes. There's one. And there's another one. There's a third one. No. Yes. Okay, all 5 of them are here by the looks of it. 1, 2, or was that 3? I thought I saw on the right corner that there's some. I thought there were maybe 3 there, but maybe I'm mistaken. We'll just have to wait for them to come out. They've now, sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat, and it's not going to go away. One of the boys, and he was using the luxury facilities, and that actually sent the zebra running in the opposite direction. A little bit jumpy. And if they all work together, they could quite easily bring down one of these zebra. It'll be a hard fight, though. But teamwork is super important, but they're still a little bit way away, and we know that they did eat something this morning, so it's hard to tell when they're laying like that how much their bellies have subsided, but hopefully they'll move into an open spot and then we can see. But as you know, an animal doesn't have, just because it has a big belly doesn't mean that it won't hunt. Because these cheetahs as well, they don't know when they're going to get their next meal. It could be only in a few days from now. It might take them a couple of attempts before they are lucky again. Where did that other one go? Now, Wendy, you're wondering what do I think will happen when the 5 musketeers is just close by. Is that correct? Or what? I'm just trying to understand everything before I comment on. Now, that was nice. It's not something you see all the time. Okay, thanks, Faith. But what I'm asking is, was Hodari here in the sighting? Because I got the impression that he was here, and that male cheetah that was seen with a collar was not dotted. Okay. So there we go. There was a bit of broken telephone. Now I can answer. So then all 5 of them are here. Those were the 5 cheetah that I was seeing, the fast 5. I think if they come across him, he might be in a bit of trouble, but I think he will know better and probably move off. Unless he wants to try and join the coalition like Muji did and failed miserably. However, I don't think that they would accept another male. It's quite a large coalition as is. So, watching them. And I've seen Malika and her 2 sons and Imani literally just stare at one another from across the distance, like a few hundred meters away, and not make a sound, not move to try and chase one another. Absolutely nothing like that at all. So I've never seen different cheetah parties having a fight before. It would be interesting to learn from an experience like that. So it's difficult to say just after seeing the females. But maybe the boys will be a little bit more protective because there's quite a few female cheetah in this area, and they'll be the ones who responsible for mating with them. So if there is an intruder around, probably going to give chase, maybe chase him away. But you know, one cheetah on his own, I think if he were to see 5 cheetah running, and he's probably going to turn his tail and run the opposite way if he wasn't intending on making an intelligence or cheetah doing the same thing. It's not a very common sight, so we've been quite lucky. I haven't seen it, of course. I've gone back and watched the footage, but right now, but again, anything can happen. They're fairly relaxed. They are looking around though, but cheetah are always looking around. Matt, you're wondering if I have a favorite musketeer? No, I don't think so. I haven't decided yet. Again, I'm uncertain about who my favorite is. I haven't spent enough time with him to start developing a relationship, unfortunately. So I think the longer that I watch these creatures, the more I'm going to enjoy. Well, I do enjoy cheetah. This is all coming out wrong, but I don't know. Archie, this is your first time, so it's a bit unfair. He's got a collar, but there is one cheetah that I like. I don't know which one it is though, and I always talk about it. The last time I was here, it was when D'Artagnan was being bullied, and there was another male that kept taking up the lead when it came to hunting. He was the one that was making the decision, charging in and actually putting in more than 50% effort trying to catch a meal, and he was quite cool, but I don't know which one he was. I can't tell them apart just yet. They're so far away now, unfortunately. They are probably away, so it's a fair distance out. Just laying. I haven't seen that cheetah with my own eyes before, so that unfortunately is not much of an update. I also haven't seen many of my friends this side just yet. A lot of the guides have taken holiday that I do chat with quite a bit, so I haven't been able to get a proper update. But as soon as I see one of them in the near future, of course I've got a long list of questions. Change very. They are just letting their food digest slightly. But they are starting to move around a little bit more, so that's good news. Right. James is after a lovely holiday, and he's got Tandy already. Hopefully that little cub decides to come out.
Hope she doesn't mind my outfit. Hello everybody. We've come back to the same place we were in because I'm in the shade, and we have a wonderful view of Thandi, who's waking up and hopefully will shortly wake up her little baby. Numerous illegal photographs. Don't have him. Yes. Oh, she's moving. Is she going to lie down? Is she going to do something exciting? I wonder if the youngster maybe isn't in the den, might just be in that pile. She's calling. She's just going, oh, oh. Calling again. There, now she's calling. Maybe the baby's in a tree close by. Where are you, little thing? Tristan was saying that she's been bringing kills to the den, which of course is extremely unusual for leopards. No response yet. There it is. It's there on the top of the log, just coming out. That's it. Ah, that's just too precious. Hello, nice to meet you. Oh, that's special, hey? You see him? Oh no, just too wonderful. Well, Heather, there you go. You say seeing the cub would be an amazing start to 2018. It is already an amazing start to 2018. Gone again. The picture I saw at the end made me think it was a she as well. What an amazing little den Tandy's managed to find in here. The little one totally visible now. There, coming out the bottom now, won't you? Just a shot from your way. Oh, wow. Deadhead Tom, you ought to know how many cubs Tandy's raised to adulthood. As far as I'm aware, Deadhead Tom, the answer to that is only, if we consider Tamba as an adult, I think he's the third, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sort of make sense to you? I think it's Kuchava and Tamba and one other. Bahuti. This is fantastic stuff, isn't it? Ah, beautiful, tiny little baby. H. Macy, you want to know what this cub's name is not going to be? I think that this cub's name is not going to be Francis. It's definitely not going to be Francis. Of course, it might be not Francis if it was male. It might be not Francis if it was female. So it's definitely not going to have the name Francis. Is it, Viam?
Or Jack.
Or Jack, but you can't really call a girl Jack, can you? Jacqueline. Not Jacqueline or Jack. Oh, this is too precious. For those of you who are new viewers, the reason that I'm being quite facetious about this naming thing is that it is one of the most politically charged things that happens in the whole Sabi sand. And let me assure you, with the landowners out here and their fairly vast bank accounts, there's quite a lot of debate that goes on between them anyway. And so In fact, it's not the landowners who get involved in it. It's the guides who get involved in the naming, and it becomes extremely politically charged. And so our viewers have naturally taken that on, some of them very seriously indeed. And so it's quite funny sometimes to just set the cat amongst the pigeons by calling them a name that is totally inappropriate. It will never be the real name. And if people don't hear correctly, then Twitter explodes in a froth of fury. And it first did that, of course, when we called Shadow's cub Barbara. I announced that the name was Barbara. And so now poor old Shadow's got a cub called Not Barbara. Anyway, can you still see it, Phil? Okay, so we're going to sit. I'm not going to move from here. I think we're going to sit here until she comes out, he or she comes out to feed. I hope that you will excuse my rather ridiculous looks. Can't believe my first drive back we've got this magnificent little thing. Alright, now everybody, the stream is about to go down temporarily because we have to swap from the Mara to Djuma. That has very